to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more, and many more, and many more. Good morning, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles, and I want to thank you, first of all, for your time and for your attention. We're getting started here this morning with our Monday motivation, and I hope that everybody is doing well. I hope you got more sleep than I did. Anybody who is going through perimenopause may relate and understand the insomnia that sometimes comes. And so you cannot go to sleep. So you find yourself doing some other things until you get sleepy. Doesn't happen every night, thankfully, but definitely yesterday was one of those times when I was dealing with the insomnia piece of perimenopause. I like to call it perinetia because yeah, that's the way perinetia is a good word for the way that it acts up. Um, so a couple things I want to say first off. I want to say good morning to you. I want to say I hope that somewhere in the world, wherever you are, that you are in a place, in a space of safety, that you are in a place, in a space of love, that you are in a place, in a space of appreciation for who you are as a human being in this world. I hope, really do hope and believe that everybody needs a space where they are feeling the love, they're feeling appreciated, they're feeling wanted, they're feeling like they have a right to existence, they are feeling like they have a necessary place in the world. I hope that you're experiencing that on today. Many of us, excuse me, especially in the media content creation world, um, I wouldn't necessarily group us in with news reporters or journalists, but educators, certainly. Many of us over the past, I would say, since Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have been inundated with either fielding questions about our society, fielding questions about making sense of the things that have happened over the last couple of days. Some of us have gotten a range from "you're not talking about this enough," so we get that "you're not talking about these things enough," to the other side, "you are talking about these things too much." I've had both sides of the conversation handed to me, both from Black and white people. Um, I've had on, what was that, Saturday? No, Sunday morning, I woke up to lots of racists in my comment sections online. Um, lots of racists in my comment section saying derogatory things, saying vile things, um, because I said that if you come into my space with apologetics about somebody who didn't care for anyone except his three and no more. and people who looked like him and believed like him, that I would go ahead and block them. And they particularly chose to rail and say, well, before you block me, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I woke up to that. But then I also woke up to Black people saying, why are you focusing on this? Why are you talking about this at all? It doesn't have anything to do with us. He's not a Black person. Um, and that is true. He's not a Black person. But the things that he espoused put targets on Black people. It put targets on Black people. It put targets on marginalized people. It put targets on LGBTQIA communities. The things that he espoused didn't just die with him. I'm going to say that again because I don't think some people get it. The things that he espoused did not just die with him. That's why we talk about it, because he's not the only one who feels that way. He was the mouthpiece for a lot of people that you work with. He's the mouthpiece for some of the NFL owners. He was the mouthpiece for some of the news pundits. He's the mouthpiece of the person who's sitting in the highest office in the land. He was a vocal, loud mouthpiece for some of the thought processes that happen in our country. And now that that mouthpiece is gone, more smaller voices, softer voices, voices in other positions are now coming to fill in the gap for their singular loud mouthpiece. And so people who didn't necessarily um, voice how they really felt about us are using this moment to really show you how they feel about you. They feel about you very much so the way that he espoused in the open public forum, which, by the way, was not debating. I know people keep calling it debating in that he was a philosopher. He was not. With a debate, you actually have a moderator. Um, with a debate, you don't use straw mans. With a debate, you don't take one sentence and then derail the conversation and never let the other person speak. Those aren't debates. Those were public spectacles, yes, but they were not debates. So, what you're seeing now, and I was coming across a lot of people yesterday because it was Sunday, obviously, but I was coming across a lot of people that feel like they're in a crisis of faith because they're asking themselves, who are the people around me? Who are these people? People that I have trusted, people that I have felt a affinity or a connection to, all of a sudden are coming out and sympathizing with someone who would have applauded my extermination or my demise. So if you are commiserating with a person who would have applauded my non-existence, then who actually have I been associating myself with? A couple of people I saw were reporting that they walked out of their church services, that they can no longer return to where they were because they are so disillusioned. They are in a crisis of faith. Their faith or their thought or their idea about faith has been fractured by seeing the people around them commiserate with someone who would have applauded their non-existence. And to those people I say that may be struggling with faith on this morning, I don't know if what I'm going to say is going to be helpful, but I will say I started that process back in 2012. Um, when I was in prayer and I was fasting, and I got a word from God that said, everything you see now will not be any longer in the future. It must all go because it has all been corrupted. And that was a hard thing for me to receive and to take in. And slowly, I had to work through my faith to understand, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for the future if everything that I think and know and see and believe about the church and the institution, what does it mean for those things to crumble? And over the last decade, I'm actually seeing what that means for those things to crumble. Um, People's faith in institution, people's faith in spiritual leadership, the doctrines that leadership espouses, the moral decay that is happening on a leadership level that is affecting people from the top down. Um, because I began that work back in 2012 of saying I'm going to lean in more to my faith and less into an institution for stability of faith, that has actually helped me to not fall apart right now, to not fall apart in the moment where I realize, okay, people are married to this institutional thing. And if you are married to that and it crumbles, you will crumble with it. And so, one thing that I would encourage people who are having this crisis of faith to do, who are not necessarily leaving God as much as they are leaving institutions that are failing them, right? Or local congregations that may be failing them, I encourage them to lean into your faith, lean into the Spirit of God, lean into the voice of God. Get back to the text, read the text for yourself, read the writings and the teachings of Christ in particular, and hone in on that. Okay. Hone in on that and set yourself to understand your foundation of your faith. What is it I believe in? What is it that I believe about Christ? Um, what do I know for sure? What are some bedrock things that have settled me as a human being and as a person, right? Because there are some universal virtues. There are some universal virtues that, regardless of what your faith belief is or non-belief, there are some universal virtues that you can lean into. So that has been the thing that I have been sharing with people who some have messaged and said, "What in the world is going on? I cannot believe that my leader is standing in a space of authority and giving as much attention to this." But they didn't give any attention to Tamir Rice. They didn't mention Trayvon Martin. They totally ignored George Floyd. They said Mike Brown deserved it. What do I do with that? That children, even the children that were unalived the previous day, what do I do with that? None of that was mentioned. But all of this attention is given to this person who, by all accounts, um, he didn't really love anyone outside of his specific parameters. And somebody said, I understand that they're saying he was a husband and he was a father, and that's true. So are the men that unalived Emmett Till. They were husbands and fathers. That doesn't absolve people of their lifestyle, the life that they led that brought pain and harm and doxing to other people. And so I find myself, I found myself over the weekend returning to Martin Luther King's words and writings. And I found myself even more identifying with him in the fact that sometimes you're going to rub both sides the wrong way. By the time Martin Luther King died, his approval rating was close to disapproval, excuse me, rating was close to 75%. He was not a majority well-liked person by the time, he would become a target. He was not. People revere him after the fact. People can see what he is saying after the fact, not during. And unfortunately, that is what happens a lot of times when people are sharing in real time what they see, people are sharing in real time what the future is going to hold. That might not sit well with a lot of people. I know it doesn't sit well with people when I say what you know about church will be no longer in the future. I know that. I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. Um, because again, their finances are tied into the institution of the church a lot of times. Their properties are tied into the institution of the church. Their regular income is tied into the institution of the church. Um, but if you see what is happening right now, you know that there's going to come a shift. I'm going to say this again for the record. When things were happening back in 2015, right before the first term, I said to people then, I said, eventually, the Black Christians, eventually, those who see themselves as Black Christians, they're going to come up against people who don't see them as Christian at all. And I'm talking within Christianity. And what will you do when that moment comes? Because those people are going to essentially decide that their brand of Christianity means that you can't be a Christian as a Black person. I think we're almost there. That there's a brand of Christianity that is not going to um they're not going to let Black Christians just sort of be a part of them, because in their mind you're not equal to them. You're not their equal. In their mind, you are beneath them. In their mind, in some of their minds, you're not human. Therefore, the premises of salvation don't apply to you, because if you're not human, then you cannot be saved because you're not a part of humanity. I know, I know. Give it a couple weeks. I know somebody's gonna watch this and I'm like, that's completely outlandish. If you know Christian, white Christian nationalist doctrine, give it a couple of weeks. Okay? Just like they went and attacked, their first response was to go and threaten not one, not two, not three, not four, 8 HBCUs when they heard this news. Somebody was like, well, what does this have to do with us? If you know your history, we have been blamed for a lot of stuff all the time as a community, as a collective, that we had absolutely nothing to do with. But that didn't stop them from going to Black towns, Black communities, finding who they could find to unalive, to beat brutally, to burn down their businesses and schools and all these other things. That was their innate response. So I need people to pay attention, because that genetic response that we've been talking about, the Iceman's inheritance, that genetic response to violence towards other people, you're seeing it in real time. You're seeing it in real time. And the fact that unfortunately, we have a media system right now that is so grossly complicit. I don't turn on the television to watch news anymore. I haven't for a couple of years now. I might see a news clip here and there on social media, but when it comes to news, I prefer to read it. because what I see is very troubling. Even the clips I've seen is troubling. Most of your news pundits are right now either on the conservative or are on the far right side, which means that they have a mic and they have a national platform to spread their far right, anti-black, anti-human, except their own humanity ideologies. When you have someone who can be on a show and just openly say, well, we should euthanize homeless people. We should just exterminate them on a national platform and nobody blinks. Nobody sitting with them blinks. Not even the black man who was seated across from him. Nobody blinks. That this person just recommended just exterminating homeless people and nobody on the panel blinked. Nobody said, whoa, 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 hold up, stop. That's going too far. Nobody said that. There's been no reprimand. There's been no firings. There's been no call for an apology. There's been no homeless people are people too. None of that. We're farther along in the eugenics extermination program than people really understand. You have people that are complicit, openly telling you that, hey, if you can't find housing, we're going to assume that you are mentally ill. We're going to assume something is gravely wrong with you because you can't find housing in a housing crisis created by our own government. And our solution would be, one of our solutions could possibly be to just get rid of you altogether. And no one on the panel said that this is inhumane, this is wrong, this is immoral, this is not right. We're farther along than most people are willing to admit. And because we are in a state of mass denial as to what our government is planning, we're in a state of mass denial. People do not want to admit that the votes that they cast were really a vote for extermination for a lot of people. It was a vote for extermination. It was a vote for disappearing of people. hmm It was a vote for caging of people, all under the guise of, I want a better price for my eggs. That was the guise. I want better egg prices. But you're not even getting that. And so here we are. Because as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we are tied together. We are knit together. We are woven together in this inextricable garment called humanity. And when you start unraveling humanity with cruelty, with immorality, with inhumanity, with the lack of care and compassion and empathy, which some people actually see as a sin, when you start unraveling the garment, everybody gets unraveled with it. It won't just be the people you dislike that get unraveled with what's happening. It'll be yourself. It'll be your Mima. It'll be your uncle. It'll be your niece. It'll be your nephew. Might be your son or daughter. That gets taken away through this unraveling of the fabric of our society. And I know this is supposed to be Monday motivation, but I tell you, every week I keep trying to come up here with something motivating to say. And America keeps on giving us something unmotivating every single week. And I was sharing with someone about that because they said they feel like they're experiencing an overwhelm. And I said, well, that is the point. The point is shock and awe. The point is a blitzkrieg. It's to inundate you with so many horrible, horrible things that you feel overwhelmed, that you go into a state of freezing, a state of paralyzing, a state where you feel stuck, where you feel like nothing I do is going to matter, a state where you don't take any action. But the way that you pull yourself out of that is you remember your own humanity. The way that you pull yourself out of that is you remember your own love, your own compassion, your own empathy, and you begin to act on those three things. You act with love with people around you. You act in compassion with people around you. You act with empathy with people around you. You find like minded people, preferably offline. You join organizations that are local to you, that have been in the work and been doing the work of liberation in whatever avenue, whether it's political, economic, etc. You join in with people who still have their humanity intact. That's how you pull yourself out of it. You join in with people who still have a moral conscience. That's how you pull yourself out of it. You take time away from social media and you don't doom scroll, as they call it. That's how you pull yourself out of that paralyzing feeling. Um, yeah, because the way that social media is set up, the way that the algorithms are programmed and designed, they feed on anger and they feed on trauma and chaos. And so those are the things that will be pushed towards you first. What makes you angry? What's chaotic in the world? And what can provide the most trauma and shock to your system? So if you feel like every time I open this app or every time I come online, I'm getting yet another chaos, yet another trauma, yet another tragedy pushed in my face, then you have to do the work of resetting your algorithm, which is something I had to do over the weekend. How did I reset my algorithm? I started by going to pages that focus on truth, that focus on nature, that focus on beauty. Those are some quick pages and quick ways to reset your algorithm so that you're not seeing all of this chaotic stuff day in and day out, hour upon hour. So you might have to do that today. You might have to reset your algorithm. And then I encourage people to reset their personal algorithm, reset the algorithm of your soul. How do we do that? We do that by picking up some books of interest and reading. We do that by looking at some magazines of interest and reading. We do that by painting. We do that by playing some music, either an instrument if you have an instrument, or listening to some music. But truth and beauty and nature are ways that you can reset your soul. If you're not a spiritual person, if you're a spiritual person, truth, beauty, and nature, along with prayer and meditation, thinking on things that are good, thinking on things that are positive, right? So, those are some ways that you can reset your algorithm, reset the algorithm of you, and also reset the algorithm of your online presence. And then yesterday, I was one of the things that I use to reset my soul is caring for others. And I was with my great aunt on yesterday who I've been telling you all about that is recovering. And I feel very, very blessed to have her in my life. She is 85, and I was wheeling her around and showing her around the rehabilitation center. And she was like, "Where's the library in here? I heard they have a library." So we went rolling around the building until we got to the library, and we were looking through the library there, and I found this book, and I'm thankful they allowed me to grab it and bring it back when I come back there next time. But I said, huh, this is definitely something I want to share with people on Monday. Life's journey, life's journeys according to Mr. Rogers. Things to remember along the way. I said, we need some more Mr. Rogers and Miss Rogers in the world today. We need some more people in the world that um, care about people, that are empathetic towards people. And not saying that we don't have them. I think I want to say more so, we need you to come to the front of the class. Come to the front of the class. And I want to read some of these. This section is called Who You Are Right Now. These are Mr. Rogers' words. And then I'm going to turn it over for some conversation. He says, "There are many times that I wish I had heard that just who you are at this moment, with the way that you're feeling, is fine. You don't have to be anything more than who you are right now. I'd like to think it's also something that's happened to me through the years, that I'm more able to accept myself as I happen to be rather than as somebody thought I should be." Here's another. "Each person in the world is a unique human being, and each has unique human potential. One of the most important tasks of growing is the discovery of this uniqueness, the discovery of who I am in each of us, of who I am in relation to all those who I meet. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us know that we're not alone. We can't expect to leave the unhappy and angry parts of ourselves at the door before coming in. We all need to feel that we can bring the whole of ourselves to the people who care about us. I believe that at the center of the universe there dwells a loving spirit who longs for all that's best in all of creation, a spirit who knows the great potential of each planet as well as each person, and little by little will love us into being more than we ever dreamed possible. That loving spirit would rather die than give up on any one of us." And then he launches into a story about his own personal life here that I want to share. "When I was a kid, I was shy and overweight. I was a perfect target for ridicule. One day, how well I remember that day, and it's more than 60 years ago now. We got out of school early and I started to walk home by myself. It wasn't long before I sensed I was being followed by a whole group of boys. As I walked faster, I looked around and they started to call my name and came closer and closer and got louder and louder. 'Freddie, hey, fat Freddie, we're gonna get you, Freddie.' I resented those kids for not seeing beyond my fatness or my shyness. And I didn't know that it was all right to resent it, to feel bad about it, even to feel sad about it. I didn't know it was all right to feel any of those things. Because the advice I got from the grown-ups was, just let on, just let on you don't care, then nobody will bother you. What I actually did was mourn. I cried to myself whenever I was alone. I cried through my fingers as I made up songs on the pianos. I sought out stories of other people who were poor in spirit, and I felt for them. I started to look behind the things that people did and said, and little by little concluded that Saint Exupéry was absolutely right when he wrote The Little Prince. What is essential is invisible to the eyes. So after a lot of sadness, I began a lifelong search for what is essential, what it is about my neighbor that doesn't meet the eye. Let on you don't care, then nobody will bother you. Those who gave me that advice were well meaning people, but of course, I did care. And somehow along the way, I caught the belief that God cares too, that the divine presence cares for those of us who are hurting, and that presence is everywhere. I don't know exactly how this came to me, maybe through one of my teachers or the town librarian, maybe through a musician or a minister, but definitely across some holy ground. And of course, it could have come from my grandfather I was named for, Fred McFeely, who used to say to me after we had a visit together, Freddie, you made this a day special for me. My hunch is that the beginning of my belief in the caring nature of God came from all of those people, all of those extraordinary, ordinary people who believed that I was more than I thought I was, all those saints who helped a fat, shy kid to see more clearly what was really essential. I realize that it isn't very fashionable to talk about some things as being holy. Nevertheless, if we ever want to rid ourselves of personal and corporate emptiness, brokenness, loneliness, and fear, we will have to allow ourselves room for that which we cannot see, hear, touch, or control. If we're really honest with ourselves, there are probably times when we think, what possible use can I be in this world? What need is there for somebody like me to fulfill? That's one of the deeper mysteries. Then God's grace comes to us in the form of another person who tells us we have been of help. And what a blessing that is. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Your neighborhood is still speaking. The neighborhood of Mr. Rogers is still speaking. There's a generation of people who grew up who are now part of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, who are trying to make the world a more empathetic, compassionate place, who are asking people to be their neighbor in a world where not seeing people as your neighbor is being pushed upon us. I want you to keep your own compassion. Again, you might have to recalibrate, reset the algorithm of your soul so that you can see your neighbor more clearly in this hour. There are people pushing for us to not see one another as neighbors. There are people pushing for us to not see one another as human. There are people who are pushing for us to not see one another at all, to only be concerned about zeros and ones, to only be concerned about Benjamins. There are people who are pushing for that, who are trying to slowly pull us up out of our humanity, because for them, it's more advantageous for them to accelerate their anti-humanity programs. Those programs can't work if you maintain your humanity. Those programs can't work if you maintain your compassion. And when we say resist, that's what a lot of resistance actually looks like. Resistance looks like maintaining your humanity and seeing the humanity of others and saying, I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to be a part of a system that dehumanizes other people and wants me to do it as well. The judges out there that are choosing not to be a part of the dehumanizing system, we thank you. We see you. The politicians that are out here that are refusing to be a part of a dehumanizing system, we see you and we thank you. The doctors, the nurses that are resisting being a part of a dehumanizing system, we see you and we thank you. The teachers, the educators, the professors, the lawyers that are choosing not to be a part of a dehumanizing system, we see you and we thank you. So that is what I wanted to share today. I hope I've said something that was helpful. We're going to go to our talkback session right now. Um, Pastor Ben, I see you there. I'm going to send you the link. And I have gone ahead and sent you that link. Once again, I want to thank those of you who have chosen to come in with us and view today's broadcast. Even if you're only here for 30 seconds, thank you for tuning in. And if you've been with us the whole time, thank you for tuning in and listening to what we had to say on today. And Pastor Ben, let me know if you got that link, if you received that link. All right, I see it. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely. Okay. Ha la 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 la.
That's much
That's
better.
much better. All right. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing
I'm
fine.
doing
How are
fine.
you?
How are you? Good. I know I covered a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
you
pick a
did.
you did. So pick a point and tell us your thoughts.
Well, what you
What you
ended on and
ended
what you
on and what you
began with
began with
is
is
basically the
basically the
story.
story.
Um,
Um,
they're, they've been
they've
playing
been playing
that same
that
play.
same play.
They've been running
They've
the
been running
same
the
play
same
for
play for
centuries.
centuries. Mm-hmm.
Divide and
Divide
conquer.
and conquer. Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Divide and
Divide
conquer.
and conquer.
Let's turn the
Let's turn the
Irishmen against
Irishman
the
against
black
the
folk
black folk
because we're
because
ripping
we're
them
ripping
both
them
off.
both off.
Let's tell them
Let's
that
tell
they're
them that they're
white, so they're
white so they're
better,
better,
and the
and
blacks
the
are
blacks
taking
are
their
taking their
jobs.
jobs.
And we're still
We're
doing
still
that.
doing that. Mm-hmm.
Mexicans are
Mexicans
taking
are
your
taking your
jobs.
jobs. Mm-hmm.
Divide and
Divide
conquer.
and conquer.
And it's the
And it's
same
the
thing.
same
And who's
thing. And who's
benefiting?
benefiting?
The
The
wealthy.
wealthy. Mm-hmm.
It's the
It's
wealthy.
the wealthy.
And the
And
thing
the
that you're
thing that
talking
you're
about,
talking about,
what the guy was
the guy
talking
was
about
talking about
executing the
executing the
homeless,
homeless. Mm-hmm.
how are you
How
going
are
to
you gonna
unalive
unalive
somebody
somebody
that you
that you
literally placed
literally
in that
placed in that
position?
position? Right.
What did you
What
do
did you
about
do about
rising
rising
prices?
prices?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What did you
What
do
did you do
with
with
rising?
rising?
Well, what did you
What did you
do
do
to
to
raise the
raise the
price,
price,
the
the
minimum
minimum
wage
wage
or
or
wages?
wages?
You fought
You fought
against it.
against it. It's been flat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you fought
you
against
fought
it.
against it.
So
So
if your
if
pay
your
is
pay
not
is not
keeping up
keeping up
with the high
with the high
prices
prices,
and the
and
cost
the
to keep a
cost to
roof
keep a
over
roof
your
over
head,
your head,
you're going
you're
to end
going
up
to end up
homeless.
homeless. And I don't think many people realize that the goal is to make all Americans homeless. That is the essential goal. The goal is to price everybody out of housing, to really um, take over the market in such a way that no one owns anything. That is the goal. That's the end game. And so, even people who may be comfortable right now, who are saying, well, at least I own my home, let me tell you, they got something for you too. They don't want you to own your home outright either. Every day, I open up my mail and I'm getting notices for people from people demanding that we sell our home to them. Okay? So I just want people to understand you might be a homeowner today, but there are some corporations that are predatory and they're looking to buy whole groups of homes so that you don't own anything. You'll be renting if they
Hmm.
have anything to say about it. And so I
And
need
you
people
can't
to
afford
understand
the rent
that. Correct.
in many places.
And that exactly. So if they're buying up these homes, buying up these plots of land, right? And then they're pricing the rent at such a high level, way above the income of the demographics that are in the region, then that means people don't have homes and buildings are sitting empty. But then why are the buildings sitting empty? So they can get write offs. Because it was never about putting people in actual housing.
And speaking of housing, the felon in charge, I think he signed a bill, an executive order, to limit housing to 2 years. So if you,
For
if it,
people
if it,
who are in affordable housing or governmental
mhm,
housing. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So if you've already been there, when this goes into effect, your time is up. If you've been there more than 2 years, your time is up. You will have anywhere from 30 to 90 days to move, and that is at the discretion of each state. But somewhere between 30 to 90 days,
I
you
mean,
have to move.
because the reality is, if I create, again, racism is spelled Policy, given to me by the Spirit. If I create a policy that expels you from where you're living, and that policy bumps you into homelessness, then I can now criminalize you because you're homeless, which means I can then add you to my prison population, which puts you back into slavery.
Hmm.
Because again, this is about also acquiring more bodies for free labor. If you go look at the crux of some of these policies that criminalize, the point of the criminalization, because it doesn't have to be a criminal thing, but the point of making it criminal is in fact to be able to add to the slave population in prison. And that's what we call being criminalized for just existing,
Hmm.
criminalized for not having a home,
Hmm.
criminalized from not being able to afford a home without government help.
Hmm.
Both ways those people are being criminalized. Both ways.
Yes, yes, they are. And here's one of the crazy things: they've convinced people that their tax dollars are being wasted to house people, but at the same time, they're lining their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Your tax dollars, you
Mm-hmm.
just give for no good purpose, just giving it to the wealthiest.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer my tax dollars to go to the homeless than to go to somebody that don't even need it. But see, that's based on Christ's teachings also. So that's a Christian way of thinking. Help the needy, not the greedy. But somehow we've been convinced that Christianity is helping the greedy and looking down on the needy.
It's very interesting that you said that because last night, again, I was in my unable to sleep mode, and I said to myself, and I'm looking for what I wrote down here because I didn't want to forget it. I said to myself, what actually is the beast? What actually is the beast? I know people talk about the mark of the beast and all of that, but what actually is the beast? And you know what the spirit said to me? I'm gonna hold it up and see if you can read that. It's probably backwards on your end.
Yeah, it is. I can barely see it though.
It says black extermination as supremacy truth.
Hmm.
What is the beast? Black extermination as supremacy truth.
Yeah.
They will, their goal or their supreme truth is that we must not exist in order for them to fully rule. That's their supreme truth.
Hmm.
And so when you see policies that want to erase blackness in all its forms from the public sphere, you are looking at the beast.
Hmm.
And people who don't see themselves as black, but they are seen as black by a supremacist system, are feeling the brunt of it right now because in their minds they never saw themselves as black,
Hmm.
but to them you are black.
Yeah.
And
Well, they figured if they could assimilate, that they would be white. They don't understand that whiteness is an idea,
mm-hmm,
and when you don't fit that idea, that prototype, which is white, European, you know, you you're not white. See, what we taught on here, what America is. See, and we call ourselves American, but in their mindset, American is white.
mm-hmm,
So, you need to understand if you're not white European, you ain't white. You
and
won't
the
be white.
and the reality is if you uphold the systems of whiteness, they will string you along momentarily.
Hmm.
They will let you be a very good, useful tool to uphold whiteness. But when your usefulness in upholding has ended, okay, when your usefulness, people say all kinds of wild stuff on this platform. When your usefulness has ended, right, they will expel you because, again, in their mind, you are not white,
Hmm.
even though you want to help them uphold the system.
Hmm.
So even if you're white adjacent, you're still not white. Even if you are white supportive, and when we say white here, we're talking about the ideology and the system of of pseudo white supremacy. If you're upholding the system, they'll let you in to uphold the system until your usefulness is no longer needed.
Hmm. That's it.
and then you will be expelled like everyone else.
Mhm.
Because again, you are not white. So there are a lot of people who have had proximity to these systems, and the latest one who thinks that he's one of them, the director of the FBI, he thinks he's one of them. And
Mhm.
they just told you on national TV, the governor of Utah just told you on national TV, while you standing next to him, that you're not one of them.
Yes, he did.
He looked right back at you.
Mhm.
He said, "You're not one of them, buddy. You are here to be a useful tool.
Mhm.
And when your usefulness is up, which will probably be soon because people are kind of calling for his resignation, when your usefulness is up, you're going to be out the door."
Yeah.
And so that's what it's about. And I hate for the people who have never considered themselves aligned with blackness. I hate that they're finding out right now that they're considered black.
Mhm.
I really, I feel for them in that regard. That because you've understood yourself as not black, but you're finding out that you're categorized by this system as black, and you're being treated as somebody said, "You're treating me like a black person." Um, they think you're black.
Mhm.
In their system, you're under that category.
Yep. Because you're non-white.
And like you said, it has been decades of divide and conquer. And the reality is they do it through skin tone, right? They try to divide us through skin tone, through ethnicity, through cultural differences. And while they're doing that, while they got y'all got folks in the mix about that, they said, "We don't want any of y'all.
Mhm.
But we will use your differences for y'all to fight amongst yourselves. But we don't want any of y'all." At the end
Mhm.
of the day, we don't want any of you in America.
Well, listen. Who tried to tell them? We did.
Just taking a sip.
But they didn't listen. They are now deporting Cubans,
Oh, they're now deporting Koreans
Koreans also. Yeah.
because again, these were communities that thought they would not be touched by what is happening. Now again, Korea has a little bit more leverage because they're not considered a quote unquote third world country. And Korea did actually send the best of the best here.
Mhm.
So they have some leveraging room. The United States is like, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't have done that one just yet."
Yeah. That's the thing. Just yet. And here's what's crazy. America agreed for them to send them. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, y'all go ahead. Y'all build that factory. We need y'all to train our people also. And what did they do? They came, arrested them, and all that stuff before their plan was worked out.
Because again, I'm gonna keep saying it till we maybe get it. I know people come on, they say, "Oh, black woman, I don't want to hear." I'm gonna keep saying it. They looked at them and they saw brown people.
Hmm.
They didn't see them as humans. They looked at them and they saw
Hmm.
brown people. Brown people must go. That's what the equation was. Even the woman that
Hmm.
called
the ICE to begin with. Brown people must go.
Mhm.
Why? Because again, in their mind, brown is also black.
Mhm.
And so if you're a brown person thinking you're not black, again, in their mind, you are also black. If you are melanated, you are also black in their mind.
Mhm.
It was black extermination as supremacy truth. And so she saw brown and she saw a brown equals not human, brown equals illegal, brown equals must go.
Mhm.
And then she realized, oopsie, we kind of screwed this one up. We kind of screwed this one up. But on a national, on an international tip, I don't know what to say about. I don't want to give Korea's government any advice, but I'm gonna put it this way: if I was Korea's leader, there's no way in the world I'd be trying to strike any deal with the United States.
Nope. Me
If
either.
I was Korea's leader and I got wind of how my citizens were treated,
Mhm.
there's no way in the world I'd be coming back to try to reforge a deal with the United States.
I'll
I'd
be
be
pulling
taking
out.
I'd be taking my citizens and their skills and
Mhm.
talents and working out a deal with another country
Mhm.
and helping another country.
Exactly.
I would
Exactly.
not be trying to strike a deal with the United States and subject my citizens to more possible abuses back in the United States. That's just me.
Mhm.
That's just me. That's just me. I'm not giving Korea any advice. I'm just saying if I was the leader, there's no way in the world I'm going to read or hear testimony from my citizens that they were pouring water on the ground and making them lick it with their tongue. There's no way in the world I'd be sending my citizens back here.
No. And I
And
think
I
this
think
was a
this was a
deal
deal
that they made
they
with
made with
GE.
GE.
I'm not
I'm
sure,
not
but I
sure,
think it
but I
was
think it
GE.
was
It was
it
some
was
big
some big
company.
company.
Uh,
I think
and
they were the
America
largest in
agreed to
this
it.
particular area. I want to say they
Yeah,
were. Yeah, they,
America
America
agreed to it.
agreed to it.
Why didn't
Why
ICE
didn't
know
ICE
that?
know that?
Why
Why
didn't
didn't
the felon
the
in
felon in
charge
charge
act
act
immediately and say,
immediately and
"Oh
say,
no,
"Oh no,
you can't
you
do
can't
that.
do that.
Let them
Let them
go"?
go"?
He
He
didn't.
didn't. Because for one, again, it was that anti-blackness, everything black must go working in them.
Hmm.
And then they aren't very competent. Just saying.
Now
Now
that's it
that's
right
it
there.
right there. They have fired all of the competent people.
Hmm.
They have fired the data keepers. They have
Hmm.
fired the people who make the systems work. They have
Hmm.
fired the people who know how to make information pass from one system to the next so everybody is communicated with. They also broke those systems too.
Hmm.
So the data that they would have needed in order to know that these people are X, Y, and Z, because they had paperwork proving. But I want to read this as we begin to close here today because I know we're past time. This is the report. Their waists and hands were tied together, forcing them to bend down and lick water to drink. That sounds just like 1619 transatlantic. Okay? The unscreened bathrooms contained only a single sheet to cover their lower bodies. Sunlight barely penetrated through a fist sized hole, and they were only allowed to access the small outdoor yard for 2 hours. Detained by U.S. immigration authorities for only 8 days, the workers and their families expressed shock, describing human rights violations and absurdities they could not have imagined as ordinary Koreans living in 2025. And what I want to say to that is black people have been telling you all this for hundreds of years. We've been
Mhm.
telling you who these people are. We've been telling you about the inhumanity that we've been living under. We've been telling you about the conditions that we've been living under. We've been telling you about the human rights abuses that we've been living under. We've been mourning and weeping openly about the violation of human rights when you unalive a person that is not threatening you. We've been telling you about this. And so again, I tell people, whatever you ignore that's happening to black people, just understand you're normalizing it for it to come to you next.
Mhm.
Whatever you say, oh, that's not a big deal about with black people, just know you're normalizing that abuse and it's coming to you next. It's us first, but it's you next. One more time. It's us first. They test it out on us to see if you will have any sort of humane reaction that this should not be happening.
Mhm.
And when you don't, it's coming to you next. Because people have
Mhm.
been saying, because people have been saying, where is the Asian community with some of this stuff going on? Y'all been kind of silent. Y'all haven't been really speaking as a community. Now you got a whole entire community being abused and grossly abused. And here's the thing, none of it is right.
Nope.
But let's not only be in horror and terror about that when we've had so many more instances that happened to other people that people didn't blink an eye about. But you're blinking an eye on this because you recognize, oh, this is tied to some foreign monies that we're supposed to be getting. This is tied to um, some technologies that we need. This is tied to some intelligence that we don't have. That's why we brought them over here because they know how to
Mhm.
do it and we don't. But I want you to keep that same energy when you see abuses happening to other people. And wrapping up with what Fred Rogers said, seeing each other's humanity, recognizing that there is something in every one of us that goes beyond what we can see. But I first need you to see me as human. And I keep saying that. I need people to work on seeing each other as human. Take off these labels.
Mhm.
Stop trying to say, oh, I don't have to regard this person because they're X, Y, and Z. I don't have to regard this person because they're Muslim and I'm Christian. I don't have to regard this person because they're LGBTQIA and I'm uh, heterosexual. They want you to do that because they don't want you to just see each other as human. This is a human being. They don't deserve to be treated this way. Start there. Start there.
Mhm.
Get rid of the title. Stop with the hierarchy. Recognize the humanity of other people. Because if you stop doing that, your humanity will not be recognized. We'll be living in a society where nobody's humanity will matter because everybody will be enslaved. That's the end game.
Mhm.
The end game is to get you out of your humanity so humanity doesn't matter because everybody will be enslaved. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah, and that's it.
If I can remove you from your humanity, I can remove you from your empathy, I can remove you from your compassion, then nothing about your humanity matters and everybody can be enslaved.
Hmm. There was a certain person that's been in the headlines lately that doesn't think empathy is a real word. It doesn't think that it's real.
I know.
It doesn't exist. It's a new age word. It's only been around since the 1800s, but it's a new age word. Something made up.
All words are
But
made
yet,
up.
people want us to show empathy. Make that make sense.
The reality is, the ridiculousness of that statement is all words are made up.
Yeah, every word.
Okay, and all words are made up. Okay, where do we go from here?
Hmm.
But people recognize empathy. They can identify it. They can know when it's being shown and when it's not being shown.
Hmm.
And so, as we close today, again, I want to encourage people, reset your algorithm, reset the algorithm of your soul, learn to see the people in front of you, really see them as human. See them as human. And later this week, we'll probably talk about the conversation I was having with somebody back and forth online who was insisting that our skin color shouldn't change our spirituality. It shouldn't change what we know about spirituality because we're not going to have that in heaven. I'm like, we'll get into that. We'll get into that on Thursday. But I'm like, I'm not going to turn into a blonde haired, blue eyed person when I get to heaven.
No.
That's no. That's not
Scripture
it.
tell Scriptures let us know there's going to be every ethnicity there.
Well, they didn't know that scripture. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that on Thursday. All right. Okay. All right. This has been another episode of Darren Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I do want to thank you for your time and for your attention. I hope today that we've said something, Father God.
Be like,
I hope we said something that was helpful to you. This has been another episode of Darren Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So please go out and be light.
like.
Take care, everybody. Be well, and most importantly,